Hello ladies and gentlemen, this is just a little update video to let you know what's going on with the Mentally Advanced series. People have been asking me, what is the Nepotism Adventure series? Am I serious about that? What exactly is it going to entail? So on and so forth. I've been watching my Patreon, has been kind of unstable. It's weird. On the surface, it doesn't look like a whole lot has changed, but I've been losing, I've lost a bunch of people, and I've gained a bunch of people. I lost a bunch of long-term supporters, which is unfortunate, but I've also gained some new folks, and hopefully they'll be in it for a while. But, in any case, I thought I would just kind of go on and explain what exactly is going on with the channel and what we're doing as far as pony content going forward. So first things first, the Mentally Advanced series is over. Somebody asked me if I might do a finale episode, and I think the answer is no. I don't really have very much of a finale in mind for the Mentally Advanced series. I never kind of did. The point of the Mentally Advanced series was to always make fun of the show on an episode-by-episode basis. And the problem that I ran into with Mass was that I had based the character personalities on where they were in Season 1. And as I've watched the show, the actual show proper, continue, it's gotten to where I don't really know who the characters are anymore. And I'm just not feeling it like I used to either, for that matter. In fact, it's gotten to the point where I've watched a few episodes from Season 7, and then another episode came out, and I just really wasn't able to muster the emotional willpower to watch the next episode. I just don't care about these characters anymore. And by that, I don't mean I'm leaving the fandom in a huff, everything has betrayed me. I just mean, I don't care. I don't care what, little adventure Princess Twilight's going on this week. It's all kind of insipid to me now. Are they gonna bake cookies for the yaks? Yes, the answer is yes, they're gonna succeed, they're gonna do great. And, it's always been a little bit formulaic, but for me, the stuff that drew me in just isn't there anymore. So then this leads into the question, if I'm not doing Mass anymore, and I'm not really into My Little Pony, I can't even bring myself to watch the new episodes, what am I doing with this whole Nepotism Adventure series thing? And the obvious fear is that, I'm selling out, and I'm just trying to stay with the pony fandom because that's where the fans are. And it's actually not the case. The Nepotism Adventure series is based on a comic idea that I had that I was going to draw just for art practice, where I had reinterpreted the characters to be more in line with how I see them today. And I kind of had this idea, what if Rarity came to Twilight, and she said, hey, Twilight, can you take taxes and just give them to me? And Twilight was going to say, I guess that is a friendship thing, I could totally do that. And slowly but surely, their whole little, world of success, with every character at their pinnacle, the top of their career and everything like that, it was all going to kind of unravel, and then they were going to, go to the Crystal Empire, and, they're going to have these exposition spots with their brother, and they're going to be all right, thanks, Chief. I don't know. It was an idea that I was having fun writing, and I was enjoying it, and it felt relevant and current, and it's something that I wanted to do, but it never really kind of got done because the comics are time consuming, and it's difficult to do a comic on the side of also doing animations and other kinds of things. So the Nepotism Adventure series is just going to be an animated form of that idea, which is an idea that I really kind of want to do. And, I feel like since I'm tired of the show and I can't really bring myself to watch it anymore, I may as well just go ahead and say farewell to My Little Pony. But not in an extreme way, in a fun way. I don't intend the Nepotism Adventure series to be this just salty deconstruction of the show. It's gonna be fun. I still like certain things about My Little Pony. I just don't, I just don't care about it to the point where I would prioritize it above other things anymore. If I've got other shows to watch, I'd really rather watch them than I would want to watch My Little Pony. So the Nepotism Adventure series, it's going to be kind of an arc. It has a start and it has an end, and when we get to the end, everything's going to be wrapped up, and that's probably going to be it for pony content. And, I recognize that potentially that may be that's the end of the channel, and if that is the case, then I'll just kind of pack it up and I'll find new work. I'll apply for a job somewhere else. And it's not like I'll be the first unemployed entertainer ever. But if things go well and I maintain supporters, then after that, I'd kind of like to move on to Kit's Fiscally Responsible Orphanage, or finally try this, Banana Republic semi-intelligent thing with what I've learned about animation properly, and give it a real fair shake if I can hang in there for that long. The Nepotism Adventure series itself is actually going to be probably one of the best animated things that we've ever done on the channel. I'm putting some real effort into that. It's going to have an intro scene. Like I say, it's going to be an arc, so every episode is going to be escalating tension, and then we're going to have resolution, then it's going to be over. And the whole thing is just going to be kind of a commentary on the show. So there's going to be musical stuff. Like I've got this, I've got a controller keyboard, makes composing music much easier. There's going to be lots of things. I'm going to do my best on it, and I hope it'll be a pretty grand and fun farewell to My Little Pony for the channel, or to the internet on the whole, if eventually the bottom drops out. You know, not to be fatalistic, but like I say, when I released the last Mass episode and it was like down on My Little Pony, I watched like really long-term supporters leave the Patreon. So it sends a pretty clear message from those guys. We've got new people coming in, so like I say, it's not guaranteed that this will be the end for the channel, but you know, I don't know. I'm prepared to find new work if that needs to be the case. After all, animation is notoriously difficult on YouTube, especially right now. We may see some things change in the near future, and maybe it'll turn out well. I'm optimistic, but also realistic, so you know, what can I say? I'll do my best. And I hope that, bottom line, that you guys have a really good time with the Nepotism Adventure series, and that it really feels like a really great farewell, and like a happy parting, at the very least. So, all that said, I've been getting messages asking me things like, why can't I just continue Mass, but make it about something totally different, like just have it run off the rails, like a lot of fanfictions do, and things like that. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to get into technical stuff about the show, and kind of an analysis of each of the characters, and then I'm going to explain what like a parody is, and so on and so forth. So if you don't want to hear all that, you know, this is the end of the important stuff as far as like what's going to happen going forward. We're now going to get into my perspective on the show and what exactly a parody is. And for starters, on the whole idea of just making Mass be about whatever I want Mass to be about, that's actually a copyright infringement, is what that is. Mass is a parody, and in theory, fair use, because what it's doing is it's making commentary about each individual episode of the show. Like, every new episode of Mass, you notice, was making fun of one episode, just condensing it down and then mocking, like, whatever the core message was, and the characterizations. And that's all commentative, and that's what's protected legally as fair use. When you start to take My Little Pony characters and you just write your own original scripts and you're not trying to commentate on My Little Pony, you're no longer really in the territory of fair use. At that point, you're just kind of rolling the dice, and you're hoping that you don't get a cease and desist for making completely original content. And there are pony animators who exist out there who do that kind of work, and they get away with it. You know, Hasbro doesn't come after them. But, you know, I prefer to try to stay within the realm of at least attempting to sort of follow the law. Like, it's difficult. I'm not a lawyer. I don't know through and through what works and what doesn't, but I do my best. So for me, Mass can't become just its own unique, original thing. It has to be commentative. And by extension, the Nepotism Adventure series has to be, and is, the same thing. But the thing is that Mass was commentative on what we all felt My Little Pony was like back in Season 1 and Season 2, before we had all these characters change and become new things. And the Nepotism Adventure series is going to be about, it's going to be commentative of where the characters are now. But before I start talking about the characters, I want to point out an issue about the format of the show. As you look at My Little Pony, and some people, I feel like this should go without saying, but it really doesn't. My Little Pony is a fictional universe. It's a cartoon. It's written by men and women and people. It's written by human beings and possibly other species, but mostly humans. And anyway, the point is that they are restricted by how exactly their production pipeline is set up. So for example, right now, all of their writers are freelance. They don't actually have a staff. What they do is they contract out all their writers. So all the original writers they were just contracted to work. But we've got like a bunch of brand new writers who are writing the show currently. The show's also gone through multiple directors, multiple executive producers, people get moved around from project to project. And this is all really convenient because it's very modular for how they handle staff. So like if somebody leaves, you know, if a writer doesn't want to come back, well then they just bring in a new contractor. It's not like they have this kind of like ongoing staff relationship and they've got to fill the void in the staff. They can just replace people whenever they need to. And this is great for like management and whatnot, but not so great for creating this cohesive, sort of consistent story. Because when one of your old writers leaves, whatever they believe the universe was like is lost. Same thing goes for like the executive producers and whatnot. So like when Lauren Faust left, you know, we lost her vision of the show, and the people that remained kind of interpreted the world however they felt it should be interpreted. So as the show has gone on for 7 years, it's incredibly logical and expected that we would have some tone shifts, we would maybe change some themes, we would have some foreshadowing or whatever that might not pan out because future writers wouldn't know about it or they wouldn't remember it. Like, there's over 100 episodes to watch, so people complain like, oh, when the new writers come in, they should watch absolutely everything. But if you think of how many man-hours it would take to watch every episode of My Little Pony before you wrote the first episode, it's quite a lot. Like, it's a lot to ask of the new writers, so they're not going to remember every little detail. And I feel like that's how we got, for example, the episode where Fluttershy helps the vet open an animal sanctuary, even though every past episode is with Fluttershy in it has kind of been about how she always provided an animal sanctuary and how she was kind of the vet. Like, I don't know. Clearly, some writers are doing not even the bare minimal amount of research, but honestly, it's too much to ask completely new people to come in and just watch every episode of My Little Pony now. Anyway, like I say, that's totally expected, and I actually sometimes get a little frustrated when I see fans of the show act like we haven't lost our themes, or like we haven't had the vision change, because, there's no way for it to stay consistent with their pipeline designed the way that it is. So that isn't really what's thrown me for a loop. What's really gotten me is the way that they've made changes to the characters in the show in ways that just really strictly disagree with their pipeline and are things that I never thought that they would do. One of the best examples was Rainbow Dash becoming a Wonderbolt. Like, they've had a couple of episodes sort of kind of building up to it, but you notice that there wasn't really like a season of character building for Dash that eventually kind of put her in a place where she could get to be a Wonderbolt. Like, this isn't The Wire, it's not Game of Thrones, it's not any... Like, there's really not going to be a lot of really strong character development. And it's not because children's shows can't, hit you in the gut or be serious. It's because when all of your writers are freelance, and you're changing directors, and you're changing executive producers, and this and that, like, the writers come in and they write a show, and they're not really interacting with the other writers, and they just say something is happening, and maybe the other writers don't know until that episode airs. So they don't see until the end of that season that, like, Dash is a cadet now or whatever. So, like, Dash becomes a cadet in season I don't remember what it is even now, like 5, and then becomes a Wonderbolt in season 6. This is because they weren't really like building up in a natural progression. Not all the writers were communicating. You just had kind of this one person that was driving towards that, and then somebody capped it off in the following season. You had this kind of drawback as far back as season 1. Like, you look at, for example, Pinky's Pinky Sense. We had a whole episode about how Pinky has Pinky Sense, and only one episode in season 1 that ever acknowledged it. It wasn't until season 2 that we really saw it again. And even then, it's still not a thing that many writers seem to like, so it doesn't come up. Like, Pinky's Pinky Sense is just kind of maybe a one-off joke on the occasion. So because of this limitation, and because of their format, the way their pipeline is set up, they really aren't doing themselves any favors to conclude the character arcs the way that they do, like to have Rainbow Dash become a Wonderbolt, because they can't really build into it. They don't have a lot of coordination to do, like, here's this episode, there's this episode, there's this episode, and at the end of the season, here's the big payoff. They just kind of have, like, yeah, here's she's a cadet, and then this episode, she becomes a Wonderbolt. And then, like, for a whole season, it's kind of not really acknowledged that she's a Wonderbolt, and then, in the next season, suddenly we start having episodes about Dash being a Wonderbolt. And not only was that a problem, like, not only could they not build into Dash being a Wonderbolt very effectively with the way they were set up, but once she becomes a Wonderbolt, they can't really do anything with it because the show is designed around, like the daily adventures, or like Rainbow Dash bakes a cake today. So Dash joining the Wonderbolts, like, they're depicted as this very regimented sort of unit, and Dash joins them. She goes to them and they say, okay, this is your schedule. Like, that's how those kinds of things actually work. So for Dash to be able to join them, you have to kind of undermine the Wonderbolts and say, like, they're flexible. Like, Dash can show up to practice whenever she wants, whenever it's convenient, or it's always off screen or whatever. And otherwise, Dash still has, any given day of her life to do things besides be a part of the Wonderbolts. So it doesn't work well for the daily adventure series for Dash to be in this regimented group, and you can't grow into it, and I just assumed that the show was never, ever, ever, ever gonna do it, because they would be shooting themselves in the foot and just making a terrible mistake to do it. So, of course, Mass made jokes. I essentially said Dash can never become a Wonderbolt. I had some little quip like, oh, you need a college degree to be a Wonderbolt, right? And Dash just didn't know that. She was dreaming the impossible dream. And I figured the show was never going to call me on that joke, and that was part of why it was so funny to me, because if they did, they would be sabotaging themselves. And then they sabotaged themselves. I really couldn't believe it. And they've sabotaged themselves not once, not twice, but 3 times now. The first time was with Twilight Sparkle, who became a princess. And the trouble with that, like, maybe Princess would have worked had we not established any responsibilities for princesses in the past. But, like, we had Celestia and Luna, and they were both kind of depicted as being very important and making a lot of influential decisions. So you assume that this was an important role, and then you kind of have Twilight become a princess, and you have a problem. The show format says that you've got to have your daily adventures, so Princess Twilight is either going to have, like, every day is just dealing with being a princess, or you have to kind of sweep it under the rug and keep doing what you're gonna do. And you watch them sort of flounder through a lot of Season 4, where they don't seem to know what to do with Twilight, and she even has a song where she goes, I don't know what the purpose of this is. Like, I don't know what I'm doing with this. And I think it wasn't until Season 5 that they finally owned up to Twilight being a princess, and they started calling her the Princess of Friendship. And of course, she doesn't have any, like, real responsibilities as the Princess of Friendship. And I think even it might have been in Season 6, we came back again to Twilight being like, oh man, I'm so bored. I really wish that the magic table would summon me to go do something. Like, the writers just don't know what to do with that. It closes a lot of doors on them. And Dash being in the Wonderbolts kind of does the same thing. It doesn't really open a lot of doors. It would if the show had the format that allowed it to, because you could have this arc about, like, Dash going through all the struggles of being a professional athlete. You could get, like, she could be injured one episode, and then you'd have another episode where she's still injured, and you would kind of build and have, like, some threads weaving through multiple episodes. But because the pipeline doesn't work like that, and the daily adventure setup for the show doesn't work like that, you really just have things you can't do now that these characters are in these positions. They're at their peaks, right? So you can't go down from there. Like, if you go anywhere else, it feels like a downgrade. You're just stuck at the top, and you can really go no higher, and then you can't do anything at that height. Like, being a princess is too much for this kid's show about daily adventures. There's too many responsibilities. If you were to write about it seriously, or to really, like, use the conflicts that are innate to that position, you would go over the heads of most kids, and you would have to spend multiple episodes hashing it out because the problems would be fairly big. And the same thing goes for, like, being a business owner. Like, Rarity now owns a chain of, like, 3 boutiques, and the innate struggles there are kind of complicated and not really suited for a kid's show. So, like, being at the pinnacle of your career is just not really all that kid-friendly. Like, it can make for great tension and for great entertainment, but not when you have to keep the 7-year-olds following along and aware of where you are. Not just for one episode, but for, like, multiple seasons of your cartoon. And, of course, the other thing that we've got going on is because we have people establishing things in one season, and then the new writers don't know about it till the next season, we can sometimes go for, like, most of a season or half a season or whatever, where the characters aren't really exhibiting any responsibilities because, well, Dash became a Wonderbolt, but then, she has to appear in a bunch of episodes after that. So we kind of demonstrate through the first season that Dash became a Wonderbolt that the Wonderbolts don't do anything. And then you'd be playing cleanup in the following season where you have to then be like, oh, well, they occasionally do things, but they don't really, like, need much of Dash's time. And at the end of the day, with all of this, because of the limitations of the show preventing them from really getting deep into these, like, high-powered careers, I don't really get the point of having the characters realize them at all, except to, I don't know, just kind of complete the character. Like, Dash is done now. They've reached the end of her arc. They've finished that character. And Rarity opened her boutiques. Her boutiques. So she's done. Like, that was her arc. That was what she wanted to do. Twilight became a princess. She's finished. And now that we don't have anything that we can do from these positions, we're sort of done with the characters. And, like I say, I don't really care about what they do from this point onward, because now that they have these jobs that are just, they're completely sinecure, they have no real responsibilities, and the characters have no higher ambitions, I'm not curious if they're going to move on to something else. Like, I know that Twilight's not going to be moving into, like, some kind of really high-powered government thing. So, it's whatever. I mean, like, yeah, they're going to bake cookies today. So, then, of course, because of all these problems, you get the Glim Glam thing, where a lot of people really dislike Glim Glam. But I personally don't fault the writers for introducing this character, because they're looking at, like, Dash and Rarity and Twilight, and they're seeing, like, alright, this character's done, and their life doesn't really work with the show format anymore. Now they need this other character who can learn and have daily adventures and, like, do things. And you notice that Glim Glam hasn't really expressed any overall ambition. Like, she hasn't said, I want to be the very best Pokemon trainer or whatever. Because if they do that, then some writer is eventually going to come along and be like, oh, she's now the best Pokemon trainer. And then they'll just be stuck with that, and they'll have another dead character. So Glim Glam lets them write again, but she's still kind of awkward because she's surrounded by these other characters that are just incredibly successful, but they haven't really developed into their positions. Like, Twilight as a teacher doesn't really make that much sense because her whole kind of development... I mean, she was the main character, and she didn't even really develop into the whole princess thing. It was kind of just like, we did a song, boom, she's a princess, and then for a long time they didn't know what to do with that. Her teaching, it's like if somebody won the lottery, and then they decided that, well, I'm the princess of money making, you know, now I'll teach other people how to make money. And her only answer is just like, well, play the lottery. Like, I haven't won yet? Well, just keep playing the lottery. I mean, I don't know, I won. And Rarity's kind of the same way. I made that joke that, like, it costs 2,000 bits, I think, per square foot in Canterlot. And that was actually based off of real figures. Like, if you want to open up a business on Times Square, or one of, like, the major market sections of Paris, it is like $2,000 per square foot. It is just ludicrously expensive. So Rarity being able to open a boutique and then be successful enough to afford that monthly rent, which is just astronomical, that is like winning the lottery. Like, I can't really fathom how the character does that. Dash, getting into the Wonderbolt, same deal. It's like winning the lottery. Like, these characters just, they get these lottery wins, and it would be one thing, again, if they developed into it, but they don't. It's just sort of like, I want to win the lottery, that's my dream, you know, win $40 million, and then one day the writers just say, boom, okay, yeah, you won the lottery, you did it, yay! And in any case, that's just not what Mass was about. The joke was never going to be that the characters were just gonna, like, win the lottery and then be successful and never have to do anything real ever again. And not only that, we also had a bunch of characters just being gradually undermined. I mean, like, someone was like, oh, I bet if Greg really hates character development, this drives me crazy that people call this character development, but they're like, oh, if Greg really hates character development, I bet he's really upset about what happened to Fluttershy, because now that she's all, like, assertive and more developed, she's this much better character. But what's weird is that Fluttershy is probably more of a wallflower than she ever has been, because now she's got, like, this, well, I'm assertive kind of thing, but she doesn't have that. There's not, like, a dynamic. Like, it used to be the joke that I would make was that Fluttershy was very passive, but in the original first 2 seasons, she kind of had this breaking point where she would start to lose her temper if she got kicked around too much. And that was how the writers kept you from wanting to see the character suffer all the time, was that every now and then she expressed, like, you know, I'm about to lose it. Like, don't cross me any further. I'm gonna like tell everyone, I know about that thing you did, and I'm gonna tell everybody about it. You know, she had those moments. But now she doesn't really do that quite so much. Now it's kind of just like, hello, my name is Fluttershy. I would like you to help me with this project. No, well, that's alright. I'll just fire everyone involved and hire some new people, which, you know, I don't know. It's sort of more bland, and it's got less soul and less personality, really. It's not like, what can I say? And then, of course, there's Celestia. You know, she's been defeated at every turn. Every single enemy that's ever showed up in the series has crushed her like a bug. And I just can't, like, I can't really reconcile that very well with the Celestia that we originally depicted. Because originally we were like, oh, Celestia is this conniving, calculating creature, and she's smarter than everybody. But then, like, 7 years later, it's like she is perhaps the dumbest character in the show. I don't know. It doesn't seem like she can overcome anything. She calls for help, like, at the drop of a hat. So, yeah, just there's a lot of different reasons. Also, the feel of the environment has changed. You used to believe that like diamond dogs were maybe some kind of threat, or like a dragon was a big deal, and you thought that there was like stuff out there. There were like lots of magical things to see, but it's kind of not. The whole pony world appears to be, based on the way the show has depicted things, pretty civilized and settled down and under the pony's control. They've even gotten away from a lot of the romantic elements. Like with the whole Fluttershy helps the vet episode, where none of the ponies understood anything about animals, that kind of flies in the face of the whole winter wrap-up thing. Like we had that whole winter wrap-up episode where they were like, we help the animals hibernate because we kind of control the natural world, we control the weather, we do all of this. And now they're sort of like, oh, don't you know that bear traps are harmful to bears? And the other ponies are like, what? Why do they call them bear traps then? I don't know. It's weird. It's a different environment. It's a far different feel. It really doesn't have the magic for me that it used to, and I'm not really drawn into the show anymore. So like I say, I can't really bring myself to watch it anymore. It's not like a raw hatred. It's just sort of like I could be doing anything else with that half hour, and I really feel like there are a ton of other things that bring me more joy than My Little Pony at this point in my life, at this point in the show's life. And I just don't care to invest the time in it anymore. I mean, like, I still kind of want to watch more. Like, I've been watching Phineas and Ferb, some with Claudia, 30 Rock, Wakfu. Those are, like, old shows. There's a couple of, like, new anime things. I finished the Three Kingdoms a couple months ago. I don't know. There's just, like, other things that I could be doing, games I could be playing, projects that need working on. I just can't find the motivation to invest in what is still a delightfully colorful show, but not a very interesting show. Like, I don't expect My Little Pony to go anywhere or to really dazzle me with anything, and that's just how it's gotten for me. So yeah, mass doesn't really work if you look at where the show is going to go or how the characters are going to become. I really don't like to call it development. I don't feel like the characters developed. They've certainly written out a lot of character traits. They haven't really developed. Like, there hasn't been a sort of growth, but there has been changes. And I don't know. I mean, like, for those who are still into it, that's fine. Like I say, it still brings me joy to see, like, the stuffed pony animals at the stores and whatnot. Like, they're so colorful and happy. But I don't care about the story anymore. I'll just grab the episode synopsis and I'm good. Watch DWK has been doing his legit recaps. I'll watch that. I know what happened. Fine, that's good enough. So yeah. Anyway, like I say, we're gonna be saying farewell to My Little Pony. It's not gonna be very abrupt. It's gonna take a while. We've got numerous episodes of the Nepotism Adventure series because it's got a start and a finish. It's gonna tell the whole story, and then that'll be the end of it. So yeah, I don't know. Hopefully that provides some insight. I know people just get outrageously angry about the idea that somebody could. That like a grown adult man could be losing touch with a show for 7-year-old girls, but yeah, I'm afraid to say that I am a bit, and this is gonna be my last pony hurrah. So yeah, anyway, like I say, look forward to NAS. It's gonna be great. It's gonna be awesome. I'm already about halfway through the intro sequence for it, and it's pretty cool. Like I say, original music stuff. Good animation. I'm putting some real effort into it, so that'll be a blast at the very least. And not sure how many episodes we're gonna have. I know what the outline looks like, but I don't know exactly how many. I haven't written scripts for everything yet. So yes. But yeah, if you have been with us, then thanks for being with us. If you're supporting us on Patreon, thanks guys. I really appreciate it. It's made it possible to do any of this stuff at all in the first place. If you plan to continue supporting me through whatever, like if you're just in it for like the Don Somewhere content, then man, you guys are like the lifeblood. You're the heart of the whole thing. Like it's really not very many people when you get down to it, and it means a lot that you guys are there. So thanks for the support. Thanks for watching. I hope you enjoy what comes next, and you have a good day.